Everybody, well, thank you for being here today. Folks, as you know, last month we declared March to be Child Abuse Prevention Month in Clearfield County as part of the Commissioner's continuing journey to have citizens of Clearfield County be more aware of a couple significant problems that we have in the county and be more informed about the same and what efforts are being made to deal with the issues of not just child abuse but also sexual abuse of children and adults. We have some great presenters here today from a couple of organizations that are working very hard to deal with those problems. Mary, do you want to have the honors? Because I know you work closely with these folks.
I would love to. But with that, again, just like when we covered the stuff about the drugs and the recovery from that, it ties into that. Knowing what resources are in our community are vital for people and citizens to be able to access those services. So with knowing that Child Abuse Awareness Month and Sexual Assault Awareness Month are for April, I thought it was really appropriate to utilize the April workshop to kind of focus on that and also let people know that those are services that are available for everyone. That said, I'm going to reverse the thing because I know we have Sierra second, but I'm actually going to have Sierra go first. She's giving me real bad stink eye right now, though. But I think it'll actually be good, and then Mark and Robin can finish out. But Sierra's the case manager with the Child Advocacy Center of Clearfield County. Marlene Austin is the executive director of Passages, which covers, it's a regional rape crisis center, which is unique in Pennsylvania. They cover Clearfield, Jefferson, Forest, and Clarion. 3 counties, which they actually have, I believe, the largest geographical coverage in the state of Pennsylvania for rape crisis, which is huge. And Robin McMillan, she is the legal advocate for Passages as well as the family advocate that on behalf of the Child Advocacy Center. So with that, Sierra, take it away. And Kirby's here, too, from the CAC.
Yes,
yep,
please.
Walk up to the podium.
And make full use of the microphone, too, please. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to apologize in advance. Public speaking is not my strong suit. So as Mary said, my name is Sierra Clark. I have 2 titles at the Clearfield County Child Advocacy Center. That is forensic interviewer and case manager. And I'm sure anyone that knows Mary knows a little bit or has heard about the Child Advocacy Center because she is the director. Me and Mary work very closely together. Also on staff, we do have a part-time assistant case manager named Angela Hassinger. And then we also have a PSAME nurse named John Batcher. So my job, a little bit about my job, I forensically interview children. So the Clearfield County Child Advocacy Center offers a safe place for children who may have been abused. Instead of a child going to multiple different agencies and retelling their statement over and over again, we bring them all to the Child Advocacy Center, and the child will speak directly with Mary or I. And while the agencies watch through a different room. And this just helps so the child does not have to tell their story more than one time. We try to make it as child-friendly as possible. One of our greatest assets, as you can see here, is Kirby. He sits in the room with us and the child, and through having Kirby, we have learned that dogs are great, especially not just for the children, but for the team. Now, the team of people that watch the interview as it happens, these agencies I spoke of include law enforcement, children and youth services, the DA's office, victim advocates, like we have Passages here. Robin is at our center a lot. Also Crossroads and the victim witness office. And different medical facilities also are a part of our MDT. So with every child that comes in, we make sure that they have the opportunity to be referred to a mental health service or even to get a medical done. So we offer medicals on site, and that would be through John Batcher. Additionally, we make caregivers aware of local services where they can also receive services or trainings needed. Last year, the Clearfield County Child Advocacy Center served 225 children. Over 200 of those children were children of Clearfield County. So far this year, we have served over 60 children. So just a couple statistics to end this on is 1 in 4 girls are sexually abused before the age of 18. 1 in 13 boys are sexually abused before the age of 18. And 1 in 10 children are sexually abused before the age of 18. 91% of child victims of sexual abuse know their abuser. And that's...
Does anyone have questions for Sierra?
Sierra, I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm guessing from the numbers that the statistics you just gave us, it sounds like if they continue throughout the year, you will have more reported instances this year than you did last year?
We
Is
have
that
been
correct?
seeing an increase every single year.
Okay, I was going to ask that. Do you have a rough idea what kind of a percentage of increase it has been?
I don't think we've ever figured out percentages. I'd say it's grown steadily, at least by like 20 cases a year.
Yeah.
Around
COVID, we
there.
had
A decline that year.
It wasn't a decline, it was a stale. It
Sta-
stayed the
yeah.
same.
So, I guess I have two questions. One is, do you attribute that to there being more of the crimes, or is it just more reporting, and before people just were more reluctant to come forward?
I believe it's due to people reporting more. I think the crime has always stayed the same. It's just people are more aware of how to report, and hopefully with what we're doing here today, by spreading awareness, more people can realize ways to report, and that's important that you report.
Well, and that leads me to my second question, and that's what's the best way for somebody to report?
The best way is by calling Childline, which on our pamphlet we have the number listed there.
I don't know that it's in that one. It's right here. It's 1-800-932-0313.
That is the best way to report child abuse.
And everybody can grab a rack card for that.
What do they ask when you call?
So when you call Childline, I do a lot of it online because I'm a mandated reporter. I have that option, but if you're not a mandated reporter, you do have to do it over the phone. But they basically will ask for any and all information you have. You do not have to know every single thing. You give exactly what you know. They're never going to say anything like, well, you need to know this to report. No, they will always take a report no matter how little information you know. So they'll basically try to get every single detail from you possible so they can locate the victim and give the proper information to the proper investigators.
Sierra, I'm assuming also efforts are made. I know folks oftentimes hesitate to report things because they're worried about retribution or regretting the fact that they reported crime. I'm assuming efforts are made to protect the reporting source, correct?
Yes. I believe it is completely anonymous if you are not a mandated reporter. If you're a mandated reporter, they do, I believe, still try to keep you anonymous. So there are efforts.
Okay. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very good at protecting that.
Yeah.
To encourage anyone to call them.
Can I ask one more question? And it's just because I think the culture is getting better about this, but I still think that there's some number of people out there who think that people make this stuff up, just to get attention or God knows why. I don't know. But can you talk about and maybe both of you, because we've never talked about this. How many of the reports that you see do you find to be credible?
Okay, so me and Mary were just actually talking about this morning and actually talking about statistics, which I don't have the exact statistics, but I believe it is less than 10% that we find not to be credible.
And I would even say less than 5.
Yeah,
You're,
I don't want to definitely, but it's definitely less than 10.
I would say it's probably somewhere between 96 and or 94 and 96% of cases are children being truthful. So it's a very small.
Which is what I expected you
Mm-hmm.
to say, and I wanted to make sure that was known, that this stuff's real. I mean, this is really happening out there. This isn't kids looking to make trouble for adults. I mean, it's just, my eyes have really been open. I've made no secret before I took this position. I knew very little about this. I mean, I didn't even know about the CAC really at all before I was a candidate. And I knew a little more with CYS, but now that Mary's here, it's just, it's sad, but I mean, I thank you for what everybody here does. It's just a shame that your job is so necessary, really.
Well, following up on that, then, let me ask this question. Obviously, it's important that people that a child not be victimized, and secondly, that the perpetrator causing to be a victim be punished for that. But obviously, going forward, in addition to reacting, preventative measures also need to be taken to change the culture, hopefully to cause the number of incidents to go down. Are there efforts being made to cause it to lessen, I guess, going forward? And if they are, can you tell us what they are,
Yes.
please?
For example, Passages here, which I'm sure they'll talk about, they have, I'm not going to speak too much into it, but they have a lot of preventative work they do. They have education, prevention education. They go into the school, like Elena, she goes into the school, she teaches kids about, I don't think it's
Body safety.
body safety and what to
Staying-
do if someone is not being safe with your body.
She does technology training.
She does technology training. She reads books on Facebook, I know, for kids that teach about body safety. So I know Passages is really big with the preventative. At the Child Advocacy Center, we utilize our Facebook to try to spread awareness on what to look out for, what to talk to your children about, how to teach them properly. We do go out into, like, we go to festivals and everything and try to spread our pamphlets. But a lot of our work is immediate. That's our main focus, is helping the child that is an alleged victim when they come in. But yes, there is different preventative measures out there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Sierra, thank you for coming in today and talking
Thank
to
you.
us.
And Sierra, I just want to point out, like, number one thing, we serve about 85 to 90% of the children that come through our center are sexual assault victims. But the other three types of kiddos we provide services to are physical abuse, neglect, and emotional. And an easy way to remember that is ESPN. Emotional, sexual, physical, and neglect. So those are the types of child abuse that do exist and are very real and happen. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay,
Any
thank
other
you.
questions?
And of course, don't leave. We'll want to get your picture taken whenever things are all taken
We'll do a
care of.
group shot with
Yeah.
the three of them. You guys dressed in the same color scheme, too.
Oh, yeah,
That's
very pink.
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Guys from Passages, whatever order you'd like to take.
Okay, we're both going to be kind of tag teaming this. And Robin, do you want to come up too? All right. First of all, we want to thank the commissioners for allowing us to come and speak and tell you a little bit of what we do, who we are, and our wonderful collaborating efforts that we share with the Child Advocacy Center that we're so grateful for you as well. So I'm Marlene Austin. I'm the Executive Director at Passages. This is Robin McMillan again. She is our legal advocate at Passages. And when you were talking with Sierra and talking about the numbers and how the numbers have just increased over the years, is I think we at Passages start to see Robin less in her legal advocate role and more at the CAC just because of those numbers growing. And it's difficult at times because, Robin's pulled in two ways in a sense, but it's all for the good of the children and the adults that we serve. So Passages actually started in 1980. We started in Clarion County. And the way that it started is there was a 911 operator as well as a security officer at Clarion University, which was Clarion State College at the time. And between the two of their positions, they really saw so many assaults that had been happening in Clarion County. And that, between the two of them, that's how Passages actually became as a sexual assault center. Okay, so in 1983, we actually moved into Jefferson County and provided services there. And then in 1998, we started services in Clearfield County as well. So as Mary talked about too, we only have 9 staff members for 3 counties. And our days are filled with providing services for children, adults, and their significant others or families who have gone through sexual assault and abuse. So I've actually been doing this for 27 years. And before doing this job, I actually was an elementary and middle school teacher. And this was something that I, as an educator, did not think happened to especially children. I was in the mindset that it mostly happened to adults, it mostly happened to females, and our children were safe. So when I started at Passages, I really got my eyes open pretty wide. And before we start and tell you a little bit of our services, you have a couple pieces of colored paper there. You have a blue sheet and a green sheet. Let's start with the little piece of green paper. On that little sheet of green paper, I want you to think of the person in your life who means the very most to you.
Who what?
The person in your life who means the most to you. If there's a tie between 2 people, you can put them. Okay, once you have that person's name written down, for right now, I want you just to crumple that paper up and put it to the side for a moment. Okay? Crumple that paper up so no one sees who you put down. Crumple it up. Okay, just put it aside for a moment, and we'll come back to that. But you also have a light blue sheet of paper right there with you. And what we'd like you to do there is I want you to think of 4 females that you somehow in some way know. Write them down. First names are fine. And then underneath there, you have 6 males. You have to think of a couple more there, but think of 6 males that you somehow in some way know. Can be any age. A relative, a friend. Co-worker. Okay, you can just kind of set that aside for a little bit too. Okay, now you also have a sheet of paper that has our logo on the top. There's, I think, 10 questions on it.
Oh, the one that's covered?
And the one that is covered, yes, up front here, we
Unflip it.
had you turn them over for now. Okay, we're not gonna worry about the very bottom because we just did that on the blue sheet of paper.
This one. It's probably upside down. Oh, you didn't get
I
it?
don't think I have it.
It's all right, Marlene's got you.
That's why when you said, don't
Don't
turn
flip
it
your
over, I'm like,
paper.
well, what are we not turning over?
Well, that's fine.
Okay, well, we're gonna give you about a minute. And I'd like you to put either true or false to these 8 questions. And then when you come down to 9 or 10, just answer that as well. Okay. Before we start, I just wanted to share with you, it's been a lot of years since I started at Passages, but I use this little handout a lot when we do programming with adults. And I was given one similar one of these, and there was more questions on it, so I just chose about 8 here. But I was like a lot of us in this room who thought they knew about maybe sexual abuse and sexual assault. I thought I knew what it was and how it happened. But after I took this test, I realized how in the dark I really was. Okay, but I also realized that I'm definitely not alone. Okay, so let's see how we did on this together. So, and you can just say the answer out loud. Robin and I are going to tag team this, but let's start with number 1 there. Sexual assault and abuse only happens to females.
False.
Right, that is false. I missed that question. I actually missed almost every one of these when I started at Passages, but that is false. And Sierra actually shared this earlier, but we know that sexual abuse and assault happens to males and females alike. As a matter of fact, the stats are pretty alarming. As you heard earlier, 1 in every 4 females are going to be victims of sexual abuse and assault by the time they reach 18 years old. Okay? 1 in every 6 males are going to be victimized by sexual abuse or assault by the time they reach 18. And I'll tell you what, when I heard those numbers, my mind right away went back into the classroom when I was teaching elementary and middle school students. And I thought, oh my gosh, how many of those kids went through my classroom and this had happened to? And I never knew. I never knew. Thinking back as I learned a lot of physical indicators, behavioral indicators to look for, it really hurt. Because there were a lot of different signs that I could see that, this child or that child, there was something going on. Mm-hmm. And I never knew. So those numbers are so incredibly high that whether we realize it or not, every one of us, we have to know somebody that it's happened to, whether you realize it or not. You just wrote down 4 females and 6 males that you know. It could be someone on your list, and you may not even realize it. If they didn't make your list, I guarantee you know someone. I guarantee it. Those numbers are too high not to. Okay? So let's go on to number 2. And if anyone has any questions as we do this, just go ahead and ask. Number 2, a person is more times than not sexually assaulted or abused by a stranger. False. Good job. That is definitely false. I missed that one. Okay, I was the person, like many are, who think it's that guy driving around in the white van, okay, or that stranger who's going to jump out of the bushes or come out of that dark alleyway and attack the female, right? Because it didn't happen to males. Okay, but over 90% of the time, those children or those adults are going to know who that person is that is abusing or has assaulted them. Okay, how about number 3? Sexual assault and abuse rarely happens in rural communities like ours. False. Very good. That's what we need to change. Because people think it's in urban areas, not our community. It doesn't happen here, right, in Clearfield County? No. Sierra just shared the numbers with us. Okay, it does happen here. And what's scary is those numbers that Sierra shared, those are just the ones that have been reported. Just think of those times that it's happening that we don't even still know about. Okay, I just want to share something really quickly. I'll never forget this. So talking about rural communities, I was actually doing a program for older adults. They were older females at a women's group. And we were doing kind of like a sexual violence 101 type little program there. And when I was finished, I was just wrapping up, putting things away. And this one woman, I'd say she was in her upper 70s, she came up to me as I was putting things together, and she says, Marlene, she said, I just wanted to thank you for coming today. And I said, you're welcome. And then she came over and she touched my arm and she says, she says, I really want to thank you for coming today. And at that point, I just kind of caught her eye and I said, you're welcome. And there was a chair right there, and she sat on that chair. And she said, come sit by me. And so I sat down beside her in a chair, and she said, what you talked about today, she said, this actually happened to me when I was a young child. And she said, I actually told my mother finally of what happened. And I said, well, what happened then? And she says, well, when I told my mother, she took my arm and she led me down into our cellar. And when we got down there, she made me sit on the steps. And she said, you'll stay down here until I come get you. She said, well, lunch went by, and she said she never brought me any lunch. When dinner came, I could hear everyone upstairs eating dinner, my family, and she said they didn't bring me any. And then she said it was almost dark, and my mother came down the steps, and she took me upstairs. And we got to the top of the steps. She turned and she looked at me and she said, you will never speak of this again. And she said, I never spoke of that again until right now. So stories like that. For 17 of my years, I actually worked in the schools and did prevention programs for children. Every school that I go to, or I had gone to, almost every time I would get disclosures from children. That's what keeps you going. It's really hard work. It's hard to hear, but that's what keeps us going. Okay, well, thank you for listening to that. But let's finish up here and see how you did. How about number 4? It's a person's fault if he or she is sexually assaulted or abused if they do not tell the person no, or if they don't try to physically resist. Right. We hear a lot of, it was my fault. We hear a lot of, I didn't tell them to stop. Why don't people tell them no? Why don't they physically resist when it's happening? A lot of times. Fear. Fear of what? Harm, right. Because a lot, especially children, if you tell anyone, I'm going to hurt, they might say, your younger sister. If you tell anyone, you won't see your family anymore. Okay? All right. So, Robin, want to take over?
On to number 5. Victims who have been sexually assaulted will always be very upset and or hysterically crying. False. And all the times in 14 years I've spent in emergency rooms with women who have undergone sexual assault exams, I've never had one hysterical. Most of the time they're not even crying. So that's a big disservice to the public when they think how a victim of sexual assault should react. Number 6, if my child was sexually assaulted or abused, he or she would tell me. False. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have a good parent-child relationship. It simply means the child could be very fearful. Especially what we know is oftentimes the abuser is an acquaintance or a family member. And imagine a child having to come forward and say, you know what, Mommy, Daddy's abusing me. So oftentimes the kids are not going to come forward for a multitude of reasons. Number 7, a person can be sexually assaulted or abused by a spouse or partner. True, absolutely. No means no, regardless whether it's in the confines of a relationship or not. Number 8, people who are sexually assaulted and the perpetrator are most likely of the same race. Correct. It crosses all demographics, ages, races, socioeconomic status. There's no limitations on who can be a perpetrator and who can be a victim. Number 9, what does an abuser look like?
Could be anybody.
Not the bushy-haired stranger? What? Yeah. Any guesses about what an age range for an abuser could be?
Any age.
All age ranges.
Yeah. We've had 6 or 7-year-old kids clear up to 80-year-old, and every age in between, male and female, can be abusers. So if the public, thinks, well, he doesn't match the description, or what we have in our heads, it's less likely that they're going to believe that abuse can occur.
All right. Anyone get them all right? Very good. Very good. You did a lot better than I did my first day working at Passages, which I thought I was going to get fired from that. But as we know, it's every single day. Every day we learn more, I feel. So, so this is why we're here today, just to do a little awareness, a little education, and then just kind of tell you about what we do and how that relates to the child advocacy here in Clearfield. First of all, what we do, we are a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week free service for individuals who have been sexually assaulted or sexually abused. Okay, so I'm just going to go through a few of our services that we have. One of the things that we do is we provide individual or group counseling for victims and their significant others or their families. It doesn't have to be a sexual assault that has just occurred. I just gave you that scenario, that story about the person who came up to me. We had that person then come in and she wanted to have counseling service with us. So we can do crisis counseling. So if someone's having a lot of rough emotions, a lot of tough emotions going on because of a sexual assault, they can call us for just kind of crisis counseling, that we're there to support them. Or they can do a little bit more if they would like ongoing counseling, supportive counseling. We just don't rise to the level of therapy. We could provide therapy. At this time, we do not have a therapist on staff, so we just provide supportive empowerment counseling. Okay, along with that, Sierra mentioned about our prevention education programs. We have 2 educators that provide our programs in all 3 of our counties. And just by 2 of them, we provide, last year, let me give you the statistics for last year. We did 884 educational programs in our 3 counties to over 10,000 participants. Okay, that's a lot. So that's a lot of awareness that's going around in our communities. As far as the number of people that we have served, last year, and we go on a fiscal year, so July to June. So last fiscal year, we served 810 clients that we had. And this year right now, we're looking right now as it's going closer to 900. So it seems like every year these numbers keep on going up. Okay, Robin's going to talk a little bit more then about what she does.
So I'm the legal advocate. I've worked in the legal advocate capacity for almost 7 years. So my main job description is to accompany individuals through the criminal justice system when there's charges filed in a case of sexual violence. The other thing that is really awesome about what I do is I get to be part of the Child Advocacy Center. So when there's a case of sexual abuse in a child, then I'm the advocate that goes and sits with the family during the time that the interview takes place. We do a lot of talking with the parents and the families there, try to support them through the whole process, kind of explain what's going to happen, and also we're sure to give them resources that they need as they progress through the process of the investigation and possible charges. What's unique about our agency is we can be with the victim from start to finish, from the initial disclosure, possibly at an emergency room, clear through the criminal investigation, through the court system, and beyond. And we're the only agency that's able to do that. Different agencies come in and out during the process, but we are able to provide the familiar face from start to finish through the whole process. Again, I spend a lot of time with Mary and Sierra at the Child Advocacy Center, usually at least once, if not 3 or 4 days a week. We're there with the families. We also provide sexual violence protection orders because 7 years ago they decided that there are victims of rape and sexual assault that did not qualify for PFAs or protection from abuse orders. So our protection from, or our sexual violence protection orders are for when there's no existing relationship between the individuals. Okay? A PFA is when it's a married couple, somebody who's dated, someone who's ever been intimate or related by blood. Our orders, it could be a coworker, it could be a landlord, it could be somebody that you just randomly met that sexually assaulted you, and we're able to write those protection orders and also accompany them through that process.
Thank you, guys. Can
Does
we,
anyone have any questions?
I was going to say, do we have any questions?
Just one. Again, I think it's important if someone is a victim of sexual abuse, who or what number or what website or what can they who or what can they contact to?
You can always contact us. The number is on all the literature that you got. There's an 800 number. Of course, if it's a child, you would want to make a child line report. And again, that can be an anonymous report.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, well,
I really appreciate it.
thank,
Yes.
mhm.
Okay, once you take that paper, I'm going to give you 15 seconds, and I want you to get all those wrinkles out. Open it up, straighten it out. You want that paper to look just like it was when I gave it to you.
That's impossible, Marlene.
15 seconds. You can do it.
No, I can't.
You can.
5 seconds. You didn't try too hard. Okay, I just wanted to kind of do a little activity there with you, because what that represents is we already know that it's somebody, we already know somebody that we know has been sexually assaulted and abused, right? And sometimes we don't know who that person is. But when it happens to someone, I don't think we even think about passages. We don't think about the Child Advocacy Center until we need those services. Okay? But when this happens to a child, when this happens to an adult, they go through a lot. They need a lot of support, a lot of help. No matter how much they try to iron out those wrinkles, no matter how hard they try, this is something that's going to be with a survivor for the rest of their life. Okay? And I wanted you to put someone who meant a lot to you, because I know if it was someone that meant so much to you, you would want those wrinkles ironed out. You would want to get them the help and support they need. Okay? So we want to thank you all. We want to thank the commissioners again for letting us talk today. So thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you to
guys.
all the providers that were here today. So, well, guys, you're not going to get away from here without getting your picture taken. So we'll show all.
Do you guys want to come up and then we'll get a picture?
Yeah, we'll get a picture.
I do love that you guys coordinated color. That was fantastic.
couple items remaining. Number one, we do want to announce that we have two openings on child rights authority. If anybody would like to, if you could ask the media to put the word out if anybody in the public would like to serve as a member of the solid waste authority. It's a very, very important organization, serves Clearfield County. Very important. And then lastly, I'd like to, this is addition to the board, we have governor's representative. Mike was a tremendous amount of help. If you recall, a number of weeks ago, Clearfield County was able to assist the
Coolport Nursery School.
Coolport Nursery Center, largely through the assistance of Mike, who was able to get in touch directly with the governor's office to assist us and assist the organization pretty much as to be able to keep it alive, keep it well, and hopefully get some transition, keep it on the road.
And the kids at the nursery school gave us this for him, and we were going to send it to him, but he said he was coming down, and since he is here at this meeting, I wanted to give this to you. Thank you.
The
From
thank
all
you
of us
cards
for
are-
all of your help.
Yes.
Okay, well, I guess since it's a work session, we don't take votes, I'll declare the meeting over. If you express any questions for the, I look over the meeting, Mike, to express any questions you have, please feel free to contact us.
Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Thank you.